Hi everybody, I am back with Hank, one of the tournament organizers for AdeptiCon. And for our AdeptiCon talks, we just thought now getting down to the wire, the convention is just a little over a month out at this point. We thought we would just give everybody a nice update on things that are going on because there's been a lot in a very short period of time lately. So we've noticed some interesting, I don't want to say latecomers, but newcomers to the party this year, Steamforge being one.
Yeah, I mean, that event honestly sort of came out of nowhere. We were really getting ready to launch the cart and got contacted by a group that wanted to run some Steamforge Guild Ball events, and those got added, and went from adding one event to adding a couple events to really adding a weekend-long sort of track for Guild Ball. And the response from attendees has been outstanding. It's rare, very rare, for us to have a first-year event that sells out. And Guild Ball has certainly done that. Really, year over year, we've had, last year was kind of Spartan with Firestorm Armada, and then this year with Guild Ball have been two events that have been pretty sizable in their first year, which is amazing.
That's great. Those are good problems to have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And Steamforge is going to have vendor presence. So not only bring in an event here, but, to pick up goodies, which is always amazing.
Yeah. No, the vendor hall this year, a lot of new vendors as well with Steamforge there. I think our total vendor hall list now is over 40 vendors in the vendor hall. Pretty amazing group of the industry present at AdeptiCon. So, if you're interested in shopping or just checking out what the latest and greatest stuff's going to be, there's going to be plenty on display.
Yeah, that's great. And like we've said before, I mean, the swag bags alone are amazing when you come to the show, but that tangible, being able to try something, go, oh geez, I really like it, and being able to run over and pick it up while you're there is so nice too, because that just keeps the forward momentum going while you're on the excitement.
I mean, the swag bag, as well as if you happen to be in the VIG swag bag, but just in general, what different vendors run from a con special stuff. So Badger's always running a con special. This year we have Weird having a booth. So in addition to Steamforge in the house, Weird is going to have a very large presence. That is so
cool. That has been a long time coming.
It has.
Because they've been here with events for ages. So that'll be
some
great.
Of the biggest Weird events in the country have been going on at AdeptiCon, and so to have them at the show, have a booth presence, and then Corvus Belli is going to be at the show with a booth presence.
So exciting.
Yeah.
And Angel.
Yeah.
So Masterclass, which those were gone like that, of course, so good stuff, very good stuff. And then people really have fussed nicely over the exclusive minis that we've been seeing coming out for the convention. So that's great too.
Yeah, I mean, every year we do a sci-fi and a fantasy model. This year they are outstanding. Patrick Keith's done a kind of a female warrior type for the fantasy model that's gotten a lot of nice exposure, and Jake with Dark Wolf Studios has done an outstanding sort of inquisitor or squad leader type figure. So we're going to put that in the bag, and everybody that comes through AdeptiCon is going to hopefully get one of those in their swag bag.
Very cool, very cool. Any special guests this year?
Yes.
Maybe that we can't talk about. Probably.
Well, I mean, I think honestly, hopefully by the time this airs, it's public. So Mark Gibbons from X Games Workshop fame.
Nice.
If you've been a Games Workshop hobbyist and you're roughly my age or maybe even a little younger, right? Mark Gibbons, along with John Blanche and Wayne England, who unfortunately just passed, really shaped kind of the visual aspects of the Games Workshop hobby. So you may not know Mark Gibbons, but you certainly know his artwork, especially if you've been in this hobby for very long. All you have to do is go out and do a Google search, and you'll see images and some of my most memorable things of opening up a codex or an army book, really came from him. So fantastic to have him in the house this year as a special guest. So I guess I'm on the clock now to announce that officially, right? But that's coming, and we will have I think some of the leaders from Corvus in the house, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think there's some possibility for a few others yet.
Very good.
I know
very
Fantasy
good.
Flight is going to have a schedule with some of their designers and people that are involved in XWing at the show, and yeah.
I think that's one of my favorite things about conventions, because I think people sometimes underestimate how cool that option of being able to talk to some of these minds are, at the shows. Really get an insight to how they've gotten where they are, how they've come up with some of the things that they do. I mean, it's not only is it just cool, I mean, it really is interesting. I always walk away learning something that you're like, wow, that is like a great story, and how come I hadn't heard that before, or something like that. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that and the opportunity to have them, sign a piece of artwork or sign a book, or just even talk about some of your favorite aspects of either a story. We've had Black Library authors in the past.
Right.
One of the things that I'm most proud of with AdeptiCon is, besides the gaming aspect of the show, it's really become kind of a social.
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
And, part of that is kind of the business industry leaders that are coming to the show, having, with either Ronnie Renton from Mantic or, a number of them being at the show and interacting with them. It's great.
Well, we've always talked about this a lot before. And like you said, from a social standpoint and a community standpoint, when we've been to other conventions, and you hate to go making comparisons to here, there, or otherwhere, but with Adepticon being so specifically table gaming,
Right.
The crowd is just very different. You wouldn't think maybe necessarily that it would be, but I mean, let's compare to Gen Con. I know we don't want to, but let's use that as our example.
That's a wide comparison.
It is, and though it does draw a lot of the same people, the overall feel of the community and of the people is 100% different.
Yeah.
And we were blown away from the first moment we started attending how welcoming, how family-oriented, how just everybody's so nice, and everybody's here to do the same thing and appreciates that we're all here to do the same thing. So you might be looking at what somebody's doing and it's not your thing, but it's cool, and you share that bond because you're really into doing that. Hey, I'm really into doing this. Again, might not be your thing, but it's just a really mutual respect, and it's very cool.
I mean, there's a special vibe, I think, when you get, several hundred people, and in this case, Adepticon is, now several thousand people under one roof that all have, miniature wargaming, tabletop wargaming as their hobby. And whether or not, I'm into, American Civil War, or whether I'm into, Malifaux or even the Privateer Press games, it doesn't really matter. We're still, interested in models.
Right.
And we're still interested in painting toy soldiers and playing with toy soldiers on the battlefield. And when you get that collection of all those people kind of focused on the same hobby, with vendors that are focused on providing, that market with their products, it's really a special vibe. And, I love traditional convention formats. Gen Con's huge, 60,000 people. Comic-Con, they all have their sort of niche, and Adepticon's niche is really just kind of like we're zeroed in on if you love miniature tabletop wargaming, or even just tabletop gaming in general, because we're doing some stuff with board games now, because, the miniature aspects of board games are sort of blending over. Adepticon's your show.
I think some of these board game, miniature kind of crossover games are really paving the way to bringing more people into the world of the miniature gaming too, because we've talked about it a lot, that if you weren't primarily a miniature gamer, or had a family member or a friend that was primarily a miniature war game, you might not know about it. So courtesy of pop culture and some of those crossovers for recognizable properties, movie things, Star Wars, really it's an eye-opener for people. So when you have an opportunity to come to something like this and try it and play it, or watch other people doing it, it just it opens a whole new world.
Yeah, I mean, the licensing aspects, I think, of the hobby have exploded, right? I mean, not only with Fantasy Flight Games and their Star Wars products, but now you have Ronnie with The Walking Dead, right?
Yes, exactly.
And, you know, all the Game of Thrones stuff, just the pop culture stuff that's making its way, Vikings, you name it. So, yeah, it's all stuff we love, and you know, love reenacting it on the tabletop and playing with little tail soldiers. So
most definitely. Well, thanks so much for giving us time. Like I said before, we will be at the event live blogging. Come on out. If you're in the States, check it out. We actually have at least one person that I'm aware of coming over from across the pond as just a convention attendee, which is, I think, really fun. You know, it's people know of it. They want to come to it, and it's getting on people's bucket lists of things to come over and do. So
yeah, I mean, every year we have probably in excess of 25 to 30 international attendees from all over the world, and Geek Nation Tours helps make that happen with their sort of plan. So I always, you know, am amazed at the international attendees and how far they've come from Australia. That's a long flight.
That is a long flight, yeah.
But we try to put on the best weekend we can for them.
You do. Well, thanks so much for giving us time, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody at the convention.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.